Alrighty, welcome to episode 208 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Tesla has officially commenced production of its long-awaited refreshed Model Y, codenamed Juniper, at its Shanghai Gigafactory. Australian deliveries are expected to commence in May. Tokwa has released a landmark review of the WIEV network. The report, which it commissioned from Future Smart Strategies, outlines three critically significant improvements required to ensure the WIEV network achieves its intended goals. The improvements are: expand the WIEV network to include the entirety of the Great Northern Highway, augment the WIEV network by reducing the average distance between charger sites from 200 kilometres to 100 kilometres, and finally, strengthen the WIEV network with a fully integrated and responsive operations and maintenance framework which guarantees resilience and reliability. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and once again welcome to the program. And as is customary, even on a special night like this, if there is anyone who is new and is comfortable in doing so, please do unmute and say hello.
Yeah, g'day guys, Ryan Bath here, long time listener, first time caller. Thought I'd jump in, given I finally had a Wednesday night free. So yeah, Model 3 Highland owner since September last year.
Fantastic. Welcome, Ryan. And let's see if we can get anyone else who would like to
Yes.
say hello.
Colin Jackman here, first time on tonight. I have a
Welcome,
Tesla
Colin.
Y, 12 months old.
Fantastic. Awesome. And welcome to the program. And let's go for a trifecta. Is there anyone else?
Hi.
Yep.
My name is Robbie Gervasilis. We have ordered a new Tesla Y model coming soon.
Fantastic. Welcome, Robbie, and no doubt you will have some questions to ask, which what we'll do is obviously we don't want to bury the lead. So the big story is the WIEV network report, but we will absolutely get to general discussions probably in the second hour of the program, if that's okay. Let's go for a quartet and see if we can get a fourth person to say hello.
Sure, I can help here. It's John Laney.
John.
Yeah, I've tuned in the last couple of weeks and I've been using my mobile phone, so really struggling with the technology, trying to make it work, but I'm on a PC tonight, so that's good. Looking to purchase my first Tesla this year, waiting for the Juniper, and I do have a question a bit later, if that's possible, if I could ask about people's experiences with the different size wheels. So
Absolutely. That's a very good question, actually, and we'll get to that, like I said, after the WIEV network. All right, let's go and let's try for a record-breaking fifth new person to say hello. Or perhaps a little bit later on. Okay, so obviously most of us are on here because we are interested in this WIEV network report, which has now dropped on our website. You can also see reference to it on our Twitter account which is Tesla _WA. And without any further ado, let's have a look at this report. I'll just get set up. The great thing is it's got a great cover. It's got some details about Future Smart Strategies, who we independently commissioned this report, we wrote this report. Basically, all you really need to know can be gleaned from the executive summary. And basically, word for what was put in the news, we only need to do three things: expand, augment, and strengthen. Expand to include the Great Northern Highway, augment the entirety of the network to have gaps reduced from 200 kilometres down to 100, and obviously, most importantly, strengthen the WIEV network with a fully integrated and responsive operations and maintenance framework which guarantees resilience and reliability. And apologies for mangling that. I only had one job to do. But and that's the main point of this 25-page report is, look, the WIEV network is an amazing and very important WA government initiative, but it's not perfect. And there are some things that need to be done. And that's precisely what that report, independent report, has gleaned and determined. And this is obviously, we are fully in support of this report, and we plead for all politicians in this election period to commit to adopting the entirety of this report in full. And let's hope that's done. So I guess in a timely fashion, I think, yes, absolutely, because time is of the essence. And in fact, so is time of the essence to do things such as, improve their maintenance and repair regime. Because, as we speak today, there are still charges, most notably the one in Halls Creek, which has been out of operation now for the last 29 weeks in a row. And, that's really just not good enough. And of course, we've got the good folks along the Great Northern Highway who are missing out entirely on being able to drive an EV down that corridor in a reasonable amount of time. Alrighty, so who would like to kick off any discussions or questions?
I'd love to. Thanks, Harold. Colin Jackman.
Yes, Colin.
I love the Tesla to pieces. My main concern at the moment is, and I've been affected the last few weeks because I've been up back and forwards I go to Mandurah every second weekend where my partner is, but I've been down to Yellingup, Busselton, and I've reported to Charge Fox and to Charge Fox. There's about 10 in the southwest at the moment of mainly RAC or Charge Fox ports out of action, and some have been 5 and 6 weeks. It's just, I find it disturbing that such good Charge Foxes are fantastic units. And I actually received today a $25 voucher from Charge Fox because I filled in some surveys for them, and I thought that was a really good reward. And I just double checked today before I came on board, and even Billabong's gone out, Lake Grace out, Esperance out, McDonald's Albany, RAC Busselton, Australind. I can keep going on, and that is scary. And I'm not being negative because I just love Tesla.
Okay, so the first thing, it's kind of a little bit frustrating, but Charge Fox do love reminding everyone that they don't own any of the charging locations, and which is the truth. They are basically just the billing operator in much the same way as Visa or MasterCard is a billing operator. However,
I'm sorry, I've been told it's a small part, got to come from overseas. So there's a lot of small parts that they should have in place or in backups. So sorry about that.
No. So and look, I feel your frustration probably times 10 because it's the usual suspects. I believe it's incorrectly termed the RAC electric highway, because the actual facts of the matter is that back in 2015, 2016-ish, the RAC, but 2015, Rob? Dane?
2016.
Ant. Oh, welcome, Ant. 2016. Thank you, Ant. Oh, by the way, Ant Day is the secretary and chair of AVA. Sorry, the chair of AVA WA branch, the Australian Electric Vehicle Association. So 2016 was when the RAC actually did something pretty groundbreaking, which was develop one of the world's first electric highways, actually. And they did it with, I was going to say, it was actually Sercontrol. So it was some new equipment created by Sercontrol. And it was almost pretty much a world first. The biggest problem, and that problem is actually discussed in the report, the WAV Network review report, was that the RAC then gifted almost all of those charges to the local governments. So the problem then was there was no centralized control of what would happen if a charger was broken, vandalized, faulty, offline, whatever. It was unfortunately then up to the hapless LGAs who had this exotic piece of equipment that they kind of didn't really ask for, and they were now expected to maintain. And if they didn't maintain it, I guess one of the problems was any one LGA wouldn't realize what an effect or an impact not maintaining one charger has, because as far as they're concerned, it's just the one charger in their town. You know, who really cares? We're sick of paying $3,000 because someone picked up the CCS connector and smashed it on the ground, and that costs $1,500. And then the CCS one, sorry, the Chatamo one next door was also smashed. So
Yeah.
it unfortunately there was a tactical error. I think the RAC thought they were doing the right thing, and in actually being quite generous, paying for the equipment and then gifting it. But the problem is the act of gifting it then diluted the network effect that you have when you have a unified regime looking after these things. And you know, this problem is still in existence today. So you mentioned a few charges. I think I can see Dunsborough and Busselton looks like they're down.
Yeah. Mandra's been about 5-6 weeks. RAC Mandra one,
Yep.
which is
So
on that foreshore. It's such a handy one there. It's great. Yeah.
absolutely. So look, this is just a historic problem, and there's no way of changing it. It's not like the RAC is going to,
Right.
for lack of a
Because I
better
didn't.
term,
My next step
renationalise
was
it.
trying to write an email to somebody and other. But I'm glad you stopped me because I would have gone off the wrong direction.
Yeah,
It's
you would have
a-
blamed the
a-
RAC, and they would have probably politely replied and said, "Well, thank you very much, but we haven't owned that charger for 5 years, or whatever."
So I've noticed lately that Charge Hub are really getting in the market, and I don't have any issues with the Charge Hub chargers. Do you aware of any problems with those?
No, not personally. I haven't actually used them, to be honest.
Can I just
And then
can I just
go on, Ant.
jump in there just a sec there, Colin? Just to reiterate what Harold said just then, was that the Charge Hub is also a network provider, and unlike like the RAC chargers, ChargeFox, where ChargeFox is the provider,
Yep.
they don't necessarily own the chargers. The chargers are owned by others, and ChargeHub provide the services that allow you to charge at them. So, for example, the payment services and the like.
Yep.
And it's very confusing. And yes, it is a patchwork, and yes, it could be better. And as Harold says, unified network would be great. And sometimes I see additional charge providers coming online, and think, oh no, not another RFID card, not another account, not another, something to confuse the consumers. The issue really is that people can now say, oh well, ChargeFox can say, oh no, it's the Shires. And the Shires can say, oh, it's ChargeFox or JetCharge or whoever supplied the charger, and or Tritium or whatever, and it goes around in circles. So yeah, that's just what I have to say. You've got to be very careful who you're addressing it to, but mostly, you won't get any joy by talking to ChargeFox.
No, well, yeah, I'm going to stay out of it now. But it was just a concern because it was that much a concern. I know it doesn't affect WA, but I'm about to go on my first Tasmania drive around Tasmania only for 10 days. I wanted to hire a Tesla Y over there, but I hired a petrol car because I don't want to get caught in only a short time and have my partner say, "Oh, what are you doing to us?" Charges are breakdown everywhere, and it's really I was getting excited to hire a Tesla in Tasmania, but I just don't trust it.
Actually, to be
carry on, Harold. Sorry.
Oh yeah, so I don't know if Chuck is in the room. Let's have a look. Yes, Chuck is in the room. And if Chuck, if you can unmute, there you are. And once you unmute, talk in defence of the awesome and vastly improving Tasmanian fast DC charger landscape.
Yep, you've got the right person here, fortunately, or unfortunately for the rest of the WA guys who put up with my Tassie rambling each week. Yeah, the charge network in Tassie, the entire state is very densely covered. There's charging stations every 50 to 80 Ks. Some of them are slower, like 25 kilowatt ones. They're more designed to be, here we go. They're more designed to be infill locations for sort of smaller towns and things like that don't have the power or even the demand to have 50 or 80 or faster ones. But if you hired a Tesla here, you would have no issues. Just for a bit of scale, Hobart, which is the giant cluster of orange dots in the bottom right there.
Yeah.
I've driven from there to Wynyard, which is a bit past Burnie in the northwest, about there. I've driven from Hobart to Wynyard on one charge. And as you can see, you drive past about 7 charges on the way. So
yeah. I mean, I probably should have, but I just thought, I just didn't want any issues in case all the because there's a lot of charge foxes in Tasmania, and I didn't want to have a breakdown.
Yeah, like I said. Oh, sorry, go Chuck.
Oh, I was going to say the important thing isn't just the charge fox who's the billing provider. It's also who owns the station and how much they care about maintaining it.
Yeah. And I understand, and I'm glad I came on tonight because I understand that from what Harold rightfully said. So I'm so glad I came on tonight because it gave me a greater understanding. And thanks, guys.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's slightly frustrating because I don't want to pile on to ChargeFox, but they are very keen to state how awesome they are at providing a service. And of course, it's reasonable for us to think of that service as including the actual electrons that charge our car. However, nothing could be further from the truth. So they are sort of fair weather friends. They spruik the awesomeness of the entirety of their network on the presumption that it's working properly. And as soon as it's not working properly, they sort of very quickly run for the hills and say, oh, but it's not our gear anyway. So please don't whinge to us.
Can I just ask a question on that topic?
Yes, Ryan.
If a council goes, okay, we're going to fix the charger, who do they engage to fix it?
Well, it depends. Well, if it's an old tritium charger, they've really got no one to ring because tritium's gone broke. The old RTs are useless. What basically happens is they just sit there until they eventually get replaced, if that's what happens to them. So if it's a case of an old tritium RT, there's really no one to ring. In case of the newer ones, there's going to be increasingly no one to ring. If it's another charger, then it would be obviously various suppliers. And I don't know if you can reel off all of the ones. I know Gemtech, for example, is one of the companies that can install and maintain. Can you rattle off any of the other ones?
No, really just Gemtech, which is now IPD.
IPD, sorry, that's it.
Yeah.
And you also got EV charging systems.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah,
there's a few around,
done
but they
a
tend
lot.
to be they tend to be limited to a particular network. And you get private people who are installing chargers on the Horizon Power network, for example, which is part of the WA EV network. So it's and they're based, the people who are installing the chargers for the Horizon Power actually based out, I believe, in Karratha, of all places. So while that's good from a sort of, being where the chargers are in the northwest, it doesn't help when they're, for example, at Mundrabilla, which is on the Nullarbor. And then you get little operators who, fix Explorer chargers, for example, or Explorer network chargers. There's a plethora of them. Glen and Justa is a company in Perth that installs and maintains a bunch of chargers. But I also just wanted to bring it back to the WA EV network because we've digressed a bit. I think I just wanted to say to Harold and the rest of Tokwa that Ava will fully support that report and thank you for getting it done. I guess the thing is to get it in front of the politicians and to say, before the election, why aren't you doing it? And 25 to 30 million or whatever it will cost is the cost of a freeway on ramp, and this is enabling an entire state for charging, and there's no real excuse for not doing it.
In fact, Ant, to that, in fact, you are remarkably close to the off the back of the envelope calculation that I did myself on the costing. So we'll actually tweet this out probably tomorrow, which will be a proper link to the actual original map. And this map is actually millimeter accurate. So you can pick a spot, and I'm just going to pick the Mueller Ranges at random. And as you drill in, we've actually done all the homework for Horizon Power and Synergy and worked out that this is the exact spot where you can install this thing on the road reserve. But anyway,
Wow.
having said that, all of the total number of charges, now what you'll see, and it's outlined in the report, is everything in blue. The icons in blue are the existing network. The icons in the reddish orange color are the 100 kilometer gap augmentation additions for the existing network, and then the icons in green are what the Great Northern Highway needs to establish 200 kilometer gaps, and then the yellowy icons are the ones that then establish a 100 kilometer gap. There are a total of 17 off-grid sites, 17 grid sites that we estimate will cost about $5 million. And there are 29 off-grid sites, which we estimate will cost about $20 million. So there's 46 sites in total. In essence, it's very close to the original WAEV network. It's basically just doubling it in size. And
That's a great coverage.
yeah, it is, and that was the whole point. And it's about $25 million. Now, as Ant alluded to, Minister Saffioti, who still is the transport minister and is now also the treasurer, a couple of years ago opened a southbound on-ramp, a single on-ramp to the freeway southbound from Manning Road. And that single cost $30 million. So
Wow.
for less than the cost of that on-ramp, the WA government can now commit to basically bringing a ubiquity of charges to Western Australia and to the WAV network, and actually fully utilise the full potential and intent of the WAV network. And one thing that, if you read the report, it goes into detail. There are a couple of, people might say, well, why do we want 100 kilometre gaps when we've got EVs that can travel 300 kilometres? So there's two main reasons. One reason is, if you imagine you're in a long range EV driving by itself and you get to a location 200 kilometres from your previous location, and you might have left that location at, say, 80%, because you don't need to fill fully because it's quite slow to get to 100%. You don't want to waste time. So you might get to that location 200 kilometres away with maybe 30% charge, which is perfectly reasonable. Now, you get to that location and it's not working. There are two scenarios. If the DC charger is not working, but the AC charger is working, what would have been a 20-minute stop turns into a 5-hour ordeal, which is not great. And if you want to know why it's not great, I can tell you, because that's precisely what happened to me when I arrived at Carnarvon and had a booking later that evening to Nyanyatara. And instead of spending 20 minutes charging in Carnarvon, I had to charge for 5 hours, which meant I had to forego my $200 or whatever it was booking at Nyanyatara and had to go to the Carnarvon motel and charge overnight. The worst outcome would be scenario is if the entire site is dead, then you've basically got, if you're in the middle of nowhere, you've got no alternative and you are stuck and you are stranded, and that is exceedingly potentially dangerous. if you are in, say, a town, then maybe you can scratch around and find a 10 amp outlet. But the thing is, to get that 200 kilometers of range on a 10 amp outlet will take about 16 hours.
Exactly.
So again, you've gone from 20 minutes to at best 5 hours to much worse 16 hours to catastrophically nothing. You will have to thumb a lift on the highway to get to somewhere else.
Especially if there's no mobile coverage, Harold.
And especially if there's no mobile coverage. And that's precisely what happened to a gentleman a day after I successfully used the charger at the Mueller Ranges. The very next day, he turned up in his MG with a friend and barely managed to ring me on a very scratchy line to say, hey, it's not working. Nothing was working.
Was that Ben? Was that Ben?
That was Ben. Yeah, that was Ben. And fortunately for Ben, he rang me on the Monday, so I was able to scratch around and use special phone numbers to try and get onto Horizon Power and Jet Charge.
Wow.
And eventually one of them answered, and in about 45 minutes later, things got going. But that's a special circumstance. Ben had my number and I had Horizon Power's number. And
Harold, can I just jump in here?
yes, yeah, absolutely, Rob.
There's like 35 people waiting to talk, so I'll be very quick. Just for those who don't know, Harold and Pete, their bloody mindedness and their patience is why this report has been delivered today. So Pete's there. Pete's only actually 25 years old. He doesn't look it anymore. I can't get this across to you 35 people here tonight. The effort these guys have made and the rest of the committee to get this report done. It's been very hard work for them. So Harold and Pete in particular, I raise a glass to you guys because it was exceptional what you did. So well done, guys.
Well
Thanks,
said.
Rob. And I'd like to reiterate Pete's titanic efforts, and it really was a big team effort. And yeah, look, we've got the report. To be frank, it's a little bit later in the election cycle than we would have preferred. Perhaps the report a month ago might have been a little bit better for us. But look, we've just got to deal with the cards that are given to us. And regardless, we're going to make the very best of this report that we possibly can. And, Ant, really appreciate the full support of Ava. And actually, it's funny, I do notice someone else, a great friend to the EV community. And I think Ant, you actually mentioned that there were a few sort of, smaller companies installing chargers around the place. And I just can't help but underscore the fact that, well may the WA government have declared the WA EV network complete in January this year. But if it were not for the titanic efforts of a certain John Edwards, not only would that assertion have been, was it Humphrey, but a very brave statement for the minister to make, because let's face it, it's actually not entirely factual. But if it were not for the titanic efforts of John Edwards in building and hiring out to Horizon Power 3 critically important temporary chargers, which incidentally actually have superior charging rates than the permanently installed chargers that will be installed sometime in the future, who knows when. John, you've been a great friend of the community. You are TOCWA's inaugural life member, and very, very deservedly so. So yeah, I'd like to congratulate you, John, for, dare I say, rescuing the WAV network for the time being. Oh, you're muted, John. You're not muted, but we don't have any microphone on you, so we can't hear you. I'm really sorry. Unless you can plug that microphone in. No, you still haven't got you. Maybe. Nope, still not. We might. You just keep trying to talk and stuff, and as soon as we hear you, we'll get to you. We'll cross to you. But again, great thanks to John Edwards. And if you want to actually get evidence of John's charges, in fact, here is John on, of all days, Valentine's Day. So whereas others of us are out for romantic dinners, John is on a romantic evening at the Balladonia temporary charger, making sure it's all working and checking it. And this is a charger of his design. And if we just flip it around, that's what it is on there. I can't zoom in on this image, but it basically rightly says that this is a temporary charger location using canola oil. And that is one that has been done by, fully engineered and developed by John Edwards.
Oh.
So good on you, John. If you try and say something, if we can hear you, I don't. No, we haven't. Oh. Just keep filling. I know you're not muted, so you definitely you might have to go into Zoom and select microphones and just check that you're using the correct microphone for your laptop or something under your system.
I've got John on the line here. John, feel free to speak.
Right. This
Gotcha.
is a bit. This is going through. You're going through Pete, am I or what?
Yeah, we're getting a bit of
mute,
feedback.
Just
Mute yourself.
Just put your volume down at your end.
All right. Take shit. How's that?
Yeah, much better. Okay, go ahead, John.
All right. Look, I haven't been on Ask Anything for a while because I don't own a Tesla anymore. But I'm very committed to the endeavour of the EV community. And I really wanted to commend a TOCWA member, a guy called James Collins. Is he on tonight?
I
Actually,
don't.
I can't do anything now. I'll turn the volume up, so I've got to turn it back up again.
Yeah, no.
But there's
Don't think so. Not tonight, John.
I'd just like to share a story with the group here. It's all very well, giving everyone a hard time, like the government and all that haven't done this, that, and the other, anything else. But then there's some absolutely superb members of this EV driving community that they just want to help, right? They want to help. So this guy, James Collins, look, I don't know him from Borough, so, right? And we had a technical glitch with the charger at Guygerna. A couple of guys turned up there and they did some magic with the charging plugs, 2 guys in Teslas. Anyway, the charger got lost its shit and defaulted back to Chinese language, right? And we couldn't fucking, nobody could work out what was going on. And so nobody could use it. And this guy, James Collins, showed up there. He said, anything I can do? And I said, yeah, I've had screens from the manufacturer. I'll text them to you. Are you any good, operating touchscreen, go in there and update the settings? Because the manufacturer said if you put the correct settings in there, it will work great. And remotely, there's the screen. He touched on there. He put the entry word, which is password 1, 2, 3, 4. Not much security, but who cares with an EV charger? And he went in there and he updated the screens, and he got that thing working, right? How brilliant is that? Someone I don't know from Borough, so gave us a call, said, can we help? Got it done. That thing's been working ever since there. That's the message I want to convey to you fellas and people you talk to is try to be part of the solution, not be part of the problem, right? And we can get things fixed if we all work together. So, and James Maitland there on the screen, James brought some batteries out, he gave me a big hand trying to sort out at one stage when we were really struggling. These sort of things we need. These guys, if you can help, give us a hand, So that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Yeah, fantastic, John. And yeah, you're dead right. It always is a lot more helpful when people try to be part of the solution than just complaining about a problem. And like I said, John, you have, I still remember your quote where you said that you were sick of being treated as an EV owner and driver. You were sick of being treated like a second-class citizen, and in the olden days, we've had to put up with
John just corrected you, Harold, and he said third class.
Third class citizen.
Third class, yeah. That's right. If only we could be as flash as second class, that would be kind of almost okay. But look, Western Australia is getting there. We've had teething problems. I hope this report sort of hopefully acts to get the network back on track and getting it performing at levels that it was probably envisaged to perform, and also helping whichever government is formed to basically walk the talk and not just commit to advocating for EVs and promoting EVs. And, at the moment, EVs are still being subsidised, but following up with an appropriate fast DC charger network so that we don't have people hesitating and saying, I'm not going to hire a Tesla because I'm not sure if everything's working properly. I'm not going to buy a Tesla or any other EV, actually, for that matter, an MG or whatever. I mean, you can get EVs for like less than $30,000, but they may still say, yeah, but I'm not sure if I can make it to Monkey Mia. We want that to be beyond doubt. We want it to be, absolutely the case where, and to be honest, and thankfully there aren't many of us old enough to remember. I'm certainly not old enough, but in the 1950s and 60s, going up to the Kimberley, you just didn't hop in a car and just go for a drive. The roadhouses that we now take for granted just didn't exist. So, people used to have to tow up 44-gallon drums of fuel and things like that. So, everything progresses, and now EVs are basically, replacing ICE vehicles. We just need a commensurate fast charging network. Just like we have petrol stations around every corner, we just need fast DC chargers in appropriate spacing and reliable ones that work. Anyway, that's enough for me.
Sorry, Harold, just quickly on that from a fairly new member, I just want to, and I was a transport manager for years and looking after Country WA. I just want to say from the TOCWA site and members, the feedback and help from you guys is unbelievable. It just each day I see questions asked, some of them are repeated, from guys like Ant, Pete, yourself, Robin, Dean, Ken Taylor. You guys, you just make us feel so good and so wanted. And you come up in a quick, easy answer. It is such a brilliant backup. And I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, well, actually, the guys on Facebook are doing a fantastic job. And you basically, you named nearly every one of them, except myself. I'm an imposter on Facebook. I really don't use it. But yeah, look, it's something that we do. It's a pleasure because it gives us a lot of satisfaction. Because, look, let's face it, we were all EV novices at some stage of our lives, whether that was a long time ago or very recently. And, you'll be very surprised. This is the 208th episode of Ask Us Anything. some of us crusty old, and I mean old not as in necessarily age, but in experience with EVs, there are still episodes not too long ago where we actually learned something new, and it's like, oh my God, I thought I knew everything about EVs, and sure enough, someone comes up with something new factoid, and we go, oh wow, we just learned something. So we're all learning, and we're all participating in this journey. And look, I guess the sign of our true success is when we become irrelevant because everyone knows EVs like we all know fossil fueled vehicles. And hopefully that day will come whereby, we won't have ask us anythings because there'll be no questions to ask because we'll all know it. But sadly, that's still a long way away.
I think the beauty of a Tesla is that probably won't be possible because of the development and the constant innovation. There's always going to be new features and new developments that will make this group relevant.
That's very true, Ryan. Let's go to John Edwards. Sorry, you got your hand up patiently. So sorry, John. Yeah, go. Oh, no, sorry, John, you can't hear you.
You still haven't fixed yourself.
I'm still good.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I'm still good with you, Pete.
Yeah.
Thanks for beaming me in.
No worries.
Look, I've been driving EVs for, I don't know, 5-6 years. And, they don't contain the same amount of energy in the battery as you do with your petrol or diesel car. So you have to plan your trip, right? And you have to be careful because headwind makes a difference. Elevation makes a difference. It's not like just getting in a car and fucking blasting somewhere. But if you get to know your car and your battery, whether it's a Tesla or Kona or whatever it is, you have to manage it. I mean, I took off at 5 a.m. the other morning to go to the Dura Pass in my Kona. I broke all the rules. I hadn't fully charged it. I was at 80%, and I was uphill to Meriden. And the next minute, I had this massive headwind. I had a 20-knot headwind hit me. And I was watching the consumption. I was watching what was going on. I wasn't going to make it. You know what? So I had to slow down. Otherwise, I wouldn't make it to Meriden. So, and all these guys on this channel would understand that. You have to watch what's going on. You have to understand the consumption of the vehicle, get to know your battery. And if you're not going to get there, you slow down. You don't run out 20 k's short of the charging station. You do something to mitigate that problem. Well, I rolled into Meriden with 10 k's on the clock, plugged in, 70 kilowatts charging. But that's what you do when you're driving an EV, which is to drive an ICE car. You agree with that, Anne, right?
Actually, yes and no. So sorry. Look, John, you are right. You're absolutely right. If you've got big gaps between charger locations, but imagine when those gaps are merely 100 kilometers, then you literally can wake up in the morning and your car can be at any state of charge, and if you have to, you can just charge at a fast AC charger in Perth for less than 10 minutes, get 100 k's of range to get to your next charger location. And then you can pick and choose your poison, whether you want to just charge for another 10 minutes for 100 k's or charge for 20 minutes for 200 k's. So at the moment, we're kind of in this transition phase. If you're in the southwest corner of WA, you can just hop in your car, not even know what your state of charge is, navigate to your destination and pick up DC, any number of reliable DC chargers, mostly in the southwest. And going up north, eventually, when the WAV network is properly finished, you'll be able to do the same, as I did, and you would have done too, John, although you were driving a big truck, which is a slightly different. But on the eastern seaboard, as much as some EV blog post writers like to think that it was arduous going between Sydney and Melbourne, it really is a doddle. And when you've got appropriately spaced, reliable DC chargers, it's just like appropriately spaced, reliable petrol stations. You know, if it's reliable and it's well spaced, you don't have to think about anything. In the 8 laps I've done of Australia, every time I go onto the eastern seaboard, I don't care what my state of charge is. I don't care what my efficiency is. I don't care what I'm towing or if I'm towing. I just hammer it down the highway knowing there are a multitude of DC charges along the way. And that's something that we're transitioning to. So I dare say, please, when you hear John and his experience, and even myself, and Pete and Rob and James and Steve, you know, us trusty, experienced EV drivers have sort of done it a little bit hard, and we've got some scars to prove it, but we've kind of had a bit of fun as well. We are thankfully a dying breed of EV owners, and there will be many thousands of new EV owners that will never experience what we've gone through and will just have a glorious experience of their car. So please don't think, oh, okay, I'm going to buy an EV, whether it's a Tesla or any other one, and now have to sort of be frugal. It's almost like, you know, adopt a vegan diet or something or whatever, like, become a Buddhist and not eat anything and do anything and live frugally in a cave. You don't have to do that. You can treat your EV as a standard car. That's the whole point. So, and on that note, and it's probably a good advice to sort of remind people, look, you've paid many tens of thousands of dollars for this awesome vehicle. And, even if you charge it at home all day, every day with nothing but grid power, it will cost you about a quarter the price of petrol or diesel. If you charge it on the fast DC charger networks, albeit the WAV network or others or Tesla superchargers, it will cost you approximately half the price of diesel and petrol. If you charge it on solar at home, it'll cost you next to nothing. But please don't feel, and I know people can get in this trap, please don't feel that you have to literally pay nothing on your EV and therefore compromise the way you use it. Please don't sort of have to dangle a 10 amp cord and watch it slowly charging all day on your 5 kilowatt solar panels and feel miserable that, well, I'd really love to go out somewhere, but the sun's shining and I don't want to miss out on this free juice. It's fun to do these things, but please don't get trapped in thinking that having an EV means frugality. It might be frugal on energy cost.
Enjoy the car.
Enjoy the car. It's just a bloody car. You know, it's designed to get you from A to B in comfort, and use it like it's intended.
Yeah, correct.
James, you've got your hand up. Oh no, you're muted.
On mute.
Sorry.
I think you just answered there. A few comments in the chat saying they're a bit nervous now hearing about these problems charging. But let me say, for people buying a Tesla now, there's the work you guys have done. I mean, you can drive all day, every day around the city without even thinking about it. You can get in your car any time of day or night and drive to any of the spots, popular spots down south. Even like BP and Ampol now have chargers on the Forest Highway. And unfortunately, yes, they're petrol companies, but it's there. And what we're trying to do, or what you're trying to do, is the next step is that you're removing that friction. It's making it friction free. And people should never be afraid of going in their Tesla or their EV to anywhere popular, but they may have to think if they're going a little bit further afield, but that's that rare time.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, has anyone else got any questions or comments?
Harold, I just wanted to quickly add, yes, you've hit that point a couple of minutes ago when you basically said that we're experiencing a transition in terms of who the EV owners and drivers are these days. And it's because EVs are becoming and have almost now become mainstream. And once you get a mainstream EV owner buying the car, all they want to do is use it the same way they've been using their internal combustion engine car. They want to be able to get into it and drive it wherever they can in any way they've driven their ICE car. So whether that means towing a caravan or a trailer or a horse float, or going up the coast and then doing a loop and coming down the Great Northern Highway, if that's what they did with their internal combustion engine car, that's what they want to do. And for that reason, we need the WA EV network to be expanded, to be augmented, and to be strengthened, as the report highlights, to enable people to use their EVs the way they were designed to be used and the way they can be used in the eastern states, in the US, in many countries around the world. In WA, we've got the potential to potentially have a world-leading network. The potential is there. We just need to, do the second half of it and finish what we've started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Can I just make a couple of points here? First of all, I just want to make a disclaimer. I work for the RAC, not in EVs, not in insurance, but I do work, and not with the EV charger. But I want to make a point, and that is that pretty much every network has started off. The grounds of it has started off with some report, and this is why this report is very, very important. But the RAC network, which is the highway, started off largely by the fact that a lady called Patty McBain drove a Ford Focus EV down to the southwest, and as she was plugging into 10 amp sockets along the way, it occurred to her that this could be a lot better, and instead of instead of being like Festivus, where we throw insults at each other, it is about her thinking of something constructive. And she talked to somebody who talked to somebody and talked to somebody else. And what came out of that was a report that went to the RAC, and the RAC built that highway. Similarly, with the WA EV network, the network came from a report by Thomas Brownell, and who features a lot in the EV community in terms of the academic kind of basis for all of these things. This extension to
that report was commissioned by TOCLA as well in 2018.
Yeah. And the point I'm making is that the reports lead to things, and so it's not just pie in the sky. Our constituency is getting more and more important as well as we grow. 8-10% of new EV sales is not trivial, and represents a proportion of the WA voting community. And in days gone by, when people had stickers on their cars saying "I fish and I vote," that is becoming true of EVs as well. That they're more obvious than having fishing rods on your car. We are all over the place, and we vote, and we need to have this infrastructure. And I think governments need to feel that that's the case. It is disappointing that the parties who are in government and in opposition didn't turn up to our transport conference just a couple of days ago, because they would have heard that very, very strongly from people. But through this report, they'll get to hear about it, and we'll make sure that they do.
Just coincidentally, and the report that you're referring to, the Professor Thomas Brownell, I've just got it up. Whoops, sorry. Up there. That's it. And I'll actually put a link in the chat for that report, and that was 14th of December 2018.
Has the committee had a chance to develop a strategy with this proposal to, like, should we all contact our members, or is there something planned an action for this yet? I don't know if you've had time.
Yes, please. I implore anyone who is interested in this subject, basically contact your local members or local candidates and make them aware of the report. The easiest way to point them to the report, and I'll just actually show it to you now, is if you go onto our, if you go onto our website, tokwa.org.au, so just ignore this top bit, that's an administrative panel. But if you go onto our standard website, you will see the 2025 WA EV Network Review on our main menu bar. Just click on that, and then you can click, and that's the report right there. So it's just tokwa.org.au, and then click on the menu bar that says 2025 WA EV Network Review.
So it's not treading on toes if we contact those people. And
No, absolutely. As I hope that as many individuals, and in fact, to be honest, I think Ant would probably agree with me, as much as us peak bodies, namely AVA and TOCWA, we have a voice. That voice is much more amplified when individuals come down and actually write letters and make representations, because for every opinion that is expressed in writing to a politician or to a candidate, the presumption is there are probably more than 10 people that agree with the same sentiment but just never bothered to write the letter. So the more individuals...
Probably closer to 100.
Or probably 100, yeah, Pete. It's probably actually more likely to be that. So the more individuals that can rise up and say, we'd like this addressed, please. And look, the thing is, there is absolutely zero doubt that the present state government is there's no doubt that they are committed to the advancement of EVs. They've got EV strategies in place. They've stated their commitment. All this report is really saying is, we hear your commitment. We are now suggesting a means by which you can fulfill it effectively. And I know I keep saying it $25 million or thereabouts. If you compare it to a Department of Transport road maintenance budget, it's just a rounding error. And look, I don't want to be trite and say, $25 million isn't a lot of money. It is a lot of money in any sort of individual's terms or even a small community group's terms. But in something that's got to do with vital transport infrastructure, it's just a rounding error. It's a fraction of a % of the main road's annual budget. And in fact, if fast DC charging equipment along the highways was treated the same as indicator posts or cat's eyes or line marking or tarmac as like road furniture, main road furniture, it would just be a rounding error, and it would just get done, and it would be an awesome system, Anyway,
but people still say, yes, 25 million might not sound like much, or 30 million might not sound like much, but the money still has to be found from somewhere. So where do we take that money from to have that $30 million? So yes, there's a lot of efficiency things that the government could do, but and I understand these figures are federal, but a big portion of that is WA. But Australia every year spends about $75 billion on fossil fuel subsidies. So we are actually subsidising coal, gas and oil. And we know there's hardly any jobs in those sectors. The jobs in the renewable sector are an order of magnitude more, if not a lot more than that. So there's no jobs in it. There's hardly any tax revenue in it. And it's not good for society. It's not good for the air. It's not good for CO2 emissions. So there's nothing good about it, yet we're subsidising it. And if you actually divide it by the number of taxpayers in Australia, it works out to about $700 per taxpayer per year, which means that a 2-taxpayer household over a 10-year period would be spending something like, I worked it out, something like $14,000 over the 10 years. That's just the money that comes from your and my taxes that goes towards subsidising fossil fuels, the very thing we should be trying to get rid of. So, if anyone is speaking to a politician and they come back to you and say, well, where do you propose we take that money from? Well, there's plenty of it, just in fossil fuel subsidies. And another good example, Rob brought this to my attention on Monday at the AEVA forum. The WA state government has re-announced spending $217.5 million on a V8 supercar track around Burswood. Now, and about 17 million of that is to fund grassroots motorsport. Look, I'm not saying that's a bad cause. I'm not trying to cast shadows on it. It's all a matter of priorities. But what do we want? Do we want anyone that owns an EV to be able to drive it anywhere in Western Australia without stress, the way they drive their petrol car? Is that a higher priority than having a V8 supercar track around Burswood?
Closer to home, we could suggest federally the luxury car tax would fill that bill, and state government stamp duty would fill that bill. So there's two sources straight away that aren't allocated. They would fill the bill very nicely. But do we need to have it coordinated? Do we need to let the committee know what we do, or just do it?
No, just do it. Just make noise, point to the report. And the great thing is you can say to the politicians, if you don't want to read, or the candidates, if you don't want to read the entire report, effectively all you need to know is embodied at the top of page 1. And that's the executive summary. And that's all you really need to know. Sorry, Ben, you've had your hand up patiently. So sorry, I'll go to you right now.
No problems, guys. I just, being a new owner, I'm just setting out on a long trip. I punch in the destination to my Tesla nav and just notice that it doesn't come up with the charging locations like the third-party ones. Maybe I'm a bit of a newbie.
So, you're not doing it wrong. No, it's a great frustration.
Yeah. And PlugShare, I've obviously got that app as well. So that's
what's
obviously
the destination, Ben? Where are you going?
Monkey Mire.
Okay, easy. So let's just bring Monkey Mire up. So basically, what you do, Monkey Mire is up there. So you leave Perth. If you want, you can go to the Lancelin, either the supercharger or the WAV network charger. Particularly, the WAV network charger is a couple of cents cheaper. So if you're a savvy Tesla owner, you might use that WAV network charger, or you might use the supercharger.
So you do have to go off your route quite a way to.
So you can just go straight to Jurien Bay. So Jurien Bay is roughly 200 kilometres north of Perth. So you can just charge at Jurien Bay. You can then proceed on to Geraldton, although you've got to do it via a diversion, which is near just after Greenhead. There's a diversion because the Indian Ocean Drive is closed for roadworks, realignment. Then you've got Geraldton, and you can charge up, depending on how you go, you can charge up at Geraldton. There's a WAV network charger there. You can also top up at Northampton. It makes sense to do that because you're climbing uphill a bit, and it's also a 150 kilowatt fast DC charger, so that's always good to do. Then what you need to do, because I know that Overlander Roadhouse is problematic, is charge up at the Billabong Homestead. And that is a
driving with a bit of charge as well.
What you can do is, and what you should do is definitely go on to ChargeFox, and I'm just trying to load ChargeFox app on my phone, and it's being painful. But you just check. Oh, ChargeFox is showing the Tritium charger offline. And when is this trip, Ben?
Oh, it's in July, so it's a fair way away.
Oh, okay, it's fine. So, look, a lot of these teething problems should be resolved. if you get to Billabong and it's not working, then you can press on to Overlander.
Overland,
And there's
yeah.
a bit of a trick. I won't really go too much details of the trick. The trick is basically you sort of open the ChargeFox app and you sort of tell it that you want to start a charge, but it won't sort of indicate that either of the nozzles is plugged in. So you sort of plug your car in and activate, or you get your RFID card, which I recommend everyone gets. The easiest thing to do is just go onto your ChargeFox account. I think you might have to do it through the web, or maybe you can do it through the app these days, and just order an RFID card through the app.
Yep.
However, what you can do is if you have a standard MyFair card and you know its serial number, so it's hexadecimal number, so it'll be a combination of letters 0 to 9 and numbers 0 to 9 and letters A to F. And if you know that number, you can then actually add that to your account. So you can if you've got, like I said, a MyFair card for whatever reason. A trick you can do, I know ChargeFox won't really like people doing this too much, but it does work, is you can ring them up when you're at a charging station, tell them that you're at charging station XYZ. There's a number usually on a sticker at the top of the charging station, and say, I'm just about to badge my RFID card. Can you please tell me what the number is of it? So then you can write that down and add that to your account if you don't want to pay the $10 or $15 for the
most of them are free at the moment, Harold. I've only paid for one RFID card out of the 7 I've got, and all the rest have been sitting me for free.
Cool. So I do recommend that. And there is a bit of a faffing around trick where you sort of plug the charger in. If you've got 2 people, it's better. You sort of plug it in and badge the RFID card, and it kind of works. Now, it's frustrating that we need to go through this elaborate process. But anyway, so we've got Overlander Roadhouse after Billabong, and my computer's going a bit slow. After that, you've got Carnarvon. Now, the gap between either Billabong or Overlander is about 200 kilometres roughly to Carnarvon. So then you just charge up at Carnarvon, and then you've got Manilya.
I'm only going to Monkey, so yeah, that's.
Monkey Mile. Then you've just. Sorry. So you charge up at Overlander, and
then into RAC, which is where I'm saying. So
yes, but the RAC Resort, I don't think that's running. If I go into the Type 2, I thought there was an issue with it, but maybe they fixed it. PlugShare says, oh no, working. Awesome. Cool. Fantastic.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's been refurbished. So yes, so you could just charge up at Billabong or at Monkey Mire, Overlander, and then just charge up at the Monkey Mire Resort.
So there's no sort of way to plan this ahead and input it into the app.
Oh, yes. So what I do, it's a little bit frustrating, but say for example, when you're charging at Geraldton. So actually, what you do is when you're leaving Perth, you type in ChargeFox space JUR for Jurien Bay, and normally the Navigate will auto-complete for Jurien. It'll show Jurien Bay. So you go ChargeFox Jurien Bay, even though it's got nothing to do with ChargeFox. They're just a billing provider. Unfortunately, ChargeFox are very clever, very swift at bombarding Google Maps with all their data to pretend it's their station, even though it's not. So put in ChargeFox JUR for Jurien Bay and it'll show up. You tap that in as a destination. When you're in Jurien Bay charging, do the same thing for the for the WAV network charger at Geraldton. Put in ChargeFox GER and it should auto-complete for Geraldton. When you're at Geraldton, go ChargeFox Northampton. When you're at Northampton, go ChargeFox Billabong.
Okay, and then, so have those maybe planned out before, and then just.
And you can load them up, and they'll be in your recents. So what you do is you can just go ChargeFox Billabong go, and then cancel it. Charge Fox, Billabong, Charge Fox, Overlander, go, and then cancel, and they'll be in your history, and then you can actually load them up later.
Yeah.
And you can do a string of them. You can actually you can add to the trip or edit the journey and add the additional ones. The only caveat on that is the car will tell you that it hasn't got enough charge to reach the destination because it doesn't realize really that you're charging at those locations. So if you plot out 1,000 kilometers of journey, it'll just go, oh, I can't make that because I haven't got enough charge. So maybe it's simpler just to go one at a time.
And then you won't
or hit a Tesla charger, and it'll precondition it quicker for you as well.
Yeah, actually, well, yes and no. So it is true on a supercharger it will precondition. You actually don't need to precondition at any of the WAV network sites because the actual maximum charge rate is about 115, 16 kilowatts. And in my experience, I have never gotten to a WAV network fast DC charger and had a slower charge rate because my car was cold. Because by definition, by the time I get there, it's already warmed up inherently just by driving.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
So look, it's in July. By then, I dare say that Overlander would be finally fully working, and I'm not even sure about Billabong.
No, Overlander's working at the moment. Billabong's not.
Right. So
that's probably going to be repaired by then. You'd think?
Oh, possibly, yes. And notwithstanding, we've got the case of Halls Creek, which hasn't been fixed for 29 weeks. But look,
that's Halls Creek.
That's Halls Creek, and there's not many people that go there.
And if I can sneak in one really quick question, sorry to get to it. Just on those long trips, it'll probably benefit everyone on this call who's new to EVs. With repairing tyre punctures, what's the sort of minimum requirement? What's the recommended to bring along board? Yeah.
So absolutely, you must bring an air compressor with you.
Yep.
I actually have two. I did buy a long time ago one of the Tesla original compressors, which has that goop of whatever the
slime
stuff, which I've never used and never will use unless I'm desperate. Then I've also got a Ryobi rechargeable compressor.
Tire
inflator, for which I've got Starlink in my car, so therefore I've got a 240 volt small inverter. So I bring along my Ryobi 240 volt powered battery charger. So obviously, if you're going to bring something that's battery powered, bring the charger with you, whether it's either a 240 volt one and an inverter, or you've got, maybe Ryobi come out with, or others come out with a 12 volt cigarette lighter charger. Or you just buy a corded inflator. So you must have at least one inflator with you, and also get one of those unvulcanized tire slug puncture repair kits.
Yep.
I'm not sure if Shane is still in the room, but
and obviously you need the equipment to take the tire off if it's on the inside of the wall or something like that.
Oh, actually, yes and no. Generally, if you just get a tech screw and it's a slow leak and you just need to jam it full of a plug, whether it's on the front or rear, if you just move your car forwards until it's basically visible to you, you can just lay on the ground and then jam this unvulcanized slug in. It's not, you'll get dirty and it'll be uncomfortable, but it'll get you going. Obviously, yes, you can bring a jack, with you. Now, also, if it's a very long trip, you can bring a spare tire. If you're a member of the club, you can borrow a Model 3 or a Model Y skinny spare, which comes in a kit in a bag. But, on a journey to be honest, anything sort of south of Port Hedland, I wouldn't generally bother to have a spare most of the time.
They're only max like 70 k's an hour or something, aren't they? On the
ones, the modern spares, which are quite expensive, they actually are rated, I think it's 110 or 110, something like that. The Browmac might be 80 or 90. Look, I've used a skinny spare for, well, I forget the distance. It was 1,500 to 1,500 kilometers, 2,000 kilometers, running on a skinny spare with a rear suspension that I knew was well out of alignment because I'd hit a cow earlier, which caused it to be out of alignment. It's a long story, but anyway, it was a rear suspension, and I'd had a total catastrophic failure of the tire and had to run on the skinny spare from near just a bit south of Alice Springs, and I didn't get a replacement spare until Port Augusta. So whatever that distance is, it's the best part of 1,500 Ks with no spare and running on the skinny spare.
Right. Yeah, I worry because you pull into somewhere like Northampton and it's like, no, I don't stock a tyre that's going to fit a Tesla. So if you have something catastrophic happen and you're stuck proper. You do need to have a skinny to get you at least to Geraldton, where they might be able to get the tyre there that night. You stay overnight and you get it repaired the next day. But yeah, these country towns just don't stock the tyres. I don't think that suit. But
well, could I also say here that it's rare to have a catastrophic failure, especially because you've got the sensors. So you just keep an eye, and they'll warn you when they go down. But in saying that, if you have a catastrophic failure, it will tend to be something that wasn't repairable the first time. But every country town can normally plug a tyre for you.
Yeah. No, a lot of Ks, full driving and whatever, and they just, and even on a bitumen, you stone or a rock or something, and it'll tear a big hole, and it's not patchable, or so.
And have RAC coverage.
Shane Parker actually had and I witnessed it because I was helping him plug it, or watching him plug it on the Spirit of Tasmania, actually. It was basically sidewall damage, and he plugged it with 3 of those unvulcanized slugs, which then meant that there was like 6 legs poking out of the side of his tire. So he called it a hexapus. And that thing lasted all the way back to Perth, and that was from good old Tassie. So, or let's call it Melbourne, Geelong. So, actually, no, it got him to Perth, and he also drove around for about a month before he finally replaced a tyre, and that was actually in the sidewall. So that's kind of the worst of all places, and that unvulcanized slug, or 3 of them, did their job, so there you go.
Well, thanks a lot, guys.
No worries. Alrighty. Anyone else got any questions? We're sort of we've got a bit over half an hour to go for the program. Oh, sorry, I don't know if it was you, Robbie, saying it. No. Oh, no, it's okay. Cool. Yeah. So, anyone got any questions or comments?
Do you have a link for a recommended vulcanized slug supply? There's been a few online.
Super cheap auto have them locally, Ryan.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I think it's in a yellow, orangey packet. Costs about $50 or less. Look, to be honest, they're pretty much of a muchness. I know there's a few different types, but they generally do a very similar job.
Yeah, and make sure you get the 4x4 packs because they have the bigger handles to get into the tires as well. So,
and the pliers to remove if there's something stuck in there.
Yeah. And like Harold said, it's like $50.
Yeah, it's look, I've used several. Oh, man. And one of them was on my old Model X, and I know these things are for temporary repair, so it temporarily fixed a hole in a tyre that lasted for the next 35,000 Ks until the tyre was worn out. So I know that's not a user recommendation. I don't recommend you do that, but it just works. They're really good.
I'm going to say it works on my performance. So, and that's about that long. So it's been fun.
And your performance gets the tires on your performance, Paul, get a hard life.
Yeah, maybe. Allegedly.
Because they're built to perform.
Yep.
Alrighty.
But get your tyres checked every time before a long trip.
Oh, yes.
90% of
exactly.
punctures happen in the last 10% of tyre. Don't go in old tyres. It's not worth it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, especially if you're in a Model Y Performance, if you own one, I don't know if many people in the room do, but if anyone's listening and you do, it has a unique geometry, which means it's very likely to chew out the extreme inner edge of your rear tires. And I've got the receipts to prove it. I did a trip up to Broome a couple of years ago, and to my horror, when I got back, the inners were beyond the belts. They'd rubbed all the belts out, and they were about to go through to that last bladder, whatever you call it, on the inside. So, and I didn't even know. And I was only a few days out from doing another lap of Australia, and I just blindly thought, because I'd run my hand sort of as you do, just to feel those sort of tread wear indicators in those deep grooves, and everything was fine. But then when I actually took the tyres off to do a tyre rotation, the very inners were beyond the belts. So please don't just sort of look at the back of your car at a oblique angle and go, yeah, it looks all right, and go, oh, the outer tread's really good. If you've got a Model Y Performance in particular, please look at the deep, deep edge. And one thing I've personally done, because I'm sick of changing tyres that have premature wear on my Performance Model Y, is I got a camber kit, which has basically fixed the problem. It changes the geometry, and those tyres now have done, I don't know, 40,000 Ks, and they're fine. They've done 2 laps and they're fine.
And you stopped dragging your caravan because that puts weight at the back.
I'm so sick of that caravan, Steve.
I
think every Australian only has about 2 caravan laps in their under their belt or in their rack or whatever that they're able to tolerate, and I've done my 2, and that's it, no more.
It normally take 10 years to do those 2, Harold.
Just on the tyres, Harold, I've just bought a Tesla repair kit off somebody who had a spare one. I haven't even opened it up yet because I only just got it. Do I need more than that, or is that enough?
So that Tesla repair, it probably sounds like the compressor. So it'll be a corded compressor, so it plugs into your 12-volt outlet of your Model 3 or Y, and it also that's on one side, and on the other side it's got this cartridge of goop, and there's a selector switch which you select whether it's compressor or goop. That's it. That's the one. It's got rounded edges. Yeah, that's right. It's very attractive. Yeah.
So that's worth having. That's worth having.
I've never used it as a compressor, but I keep it as my backup to my Ryobi inflator, because of course the Ryobi is cordless, so it's just a bit more convenient. But
I do have a small Tesla pump as well. Small Tesla pump. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, what you had in your hand is actually got a compressor in it. So
as well. Yeah.
So if you open it, and you'll notice that there's a big panel of Velcro, and the intention of that is you put it in your frunk and it sticks to or it attaches to the felty sort of lining of your frunk, which is the front storage under your bonnet. Yeah. So, but you can also, I think I generally keep mine in my Model Y. I keep it under that very skinny storage area, just immediately behind the back seats. Yeah, because it just sort of tucks in there, out of the way. Yeah, I've actually forget about it. I've never actually really used it, but that's okay. It's just a spare of a spare, so it's all good.
All right, thanks.
No worries, Colin. Alrighty. Chuck, I'm remiss to not ask you any developments on the Eastern Seaboard charging front?
It's not that I can think of. There's nothing really exciting happening. Just same old ones waiting for them to be activated.
The
I think there's
Townsville,
about
not Mackay, still not neither of those.
no, Mackay is. I think it's Townsville that isn't though. I think there's about 4 or 5 in construction at the moment. Just going to bring the list up and have a look. Yeah, if I peel to the map to just construction, then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there's actually quite a few. There's 9. 9 under construction. 2 in Melbourne. Bateman's Bay, New South Wales. Second one at Goulburn. Gosford near Sydney. Armidale. Mooney Beach. Bowen Hills in Brisbane, and Townsville. So that's a bigger list than I thought, actually.
Right, so Mackay is actually finished, which is great.
Yep. Yeah, that opened, when was it? 3 weeks ago.
Oh,
Must have missed
very
announcing that. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to look forward to using that in May. Absolutely. And hopefully Townsville too. Notwithstanding
Yes.
floods and other things, but I actually, to be honest, I think where it wasn't actually in a flood zone, so it should be good. Hopefully soon. Very
Yeah,
good.
that's all good. Yeah, no real changes over the last week, but plenty of big ones in build though.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, look, and that's a great thing about Tesla, and we do hope that Tesla do expand the WA part of their network, because the open secret is that some of the most convenient chargers are the Tesla superchargers. For a Tesla, you just plug it in, and you can basically walk away knowing that it's going to work.
Not just most convenient, but most reliable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just looking at Mackay, and yeah, that looks awesome. There are cars. Whoops, sorry. If I just bring it up. There it is at the BCF. So that is a BCFing fine supercharger setup, if you ask me. And looks like they might have even had like a sausage sizzle, perhaps, just in that corner. Maybe. Who knows?
Oh,
Fantastic.
By the way, when you're on a plate share photo like that, yeah, if you right click it, there should be an open image in new tab option. Yep. And then if you go in there, you can zoom in.
Ah, yes, very good. Oh, yeah, yep. Yeah, actually, I think it is, because this gentleman here with he looks like he's had a few hot dogs. Looks like he's going to have another one. So good on him for doing it. Yeah, fantastic. That's great. Cool. Awesome. Alrighty. We're in our last half hour of a very big show, and it's actually been a very big week as Pete and Paul and Steve and James
And
Rob.
and Rob
And Andrew.
and Andrew. It's been a big week. All right. Any other questions or comments, and even just in general for any other part of the Tesla or whatever other news that anyone's got?
Just quickly noticed on X there was some Model Ys spotted. I think it was in Melbourne on the back of a truck. Some new Model Ys.
Yes.
Probably demos.
Yes, Chuck, you're a bit closer by a couple of light milliseconds.
Just a bit.
And I think it was actually, to give some credit to Toka's, I think it was reported on Toka's Facebook page, a couple of photos of the Juniper Model Ys, which is awesome.
I didn't actually see that one. I'll have to have a quick look.
By any chance, are there any coming to Tassie, Chuck? Because that'd be cool.
Well, if there's a fleet of them going to showrooms, then you'd think they'd be going to all the showrooms.
Well, you'd be putting your hand up, wouldn't you?
I think so. You think so? We got the Cybertruck when it was touring, so
yes,
why
you
wouldn't we
did.
get the Model Y, which you can actually buy? So yeah.
Absolutely.
We also we had a club exclusive reveal of the Highland before that was released as well. So
Yeah, fantastic. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm sure it will be eventually.
Yeah, cool. Well, I sincerely hope you do, because I mean, if they're already on the eastern seaboard, clearly, WA, we get fed with different ships. Although it's still it's possible there could be a transshipment, but it's probably more likely that they just stick it on a ship, a couple of high junipers for us in our Aussie Park and O'Connor showroom. So hopefully,
We have been told May it's coming.
yes,
Yeah.
Robbie. So
Yeah, we've been told May.
that's for deliveries of cars that are ordered. So
Yeah.
I ordered a car on the day that they release the orders, but they're coming in May. But what's happening at the moment is there are some example showroom cars that are going to showrooms. So it's not en masse, it's just as samples. And look, hopefully, I don't know whether that image had enough cars that would imply that there might be some demo cars as well, so test drive cars, or they may
You would
just
think we would get at least one in WA, at least one in Perth.
look. We would definitely get at least two, so that there's one at each showroom.
Yep.
It's because we've got two showrooms, one north and one south, so we'll definitely get two. It's just a matter of time, and look, it'll probably be in the next couple of weeks, because Tesla is motivated to get them in the showroom so people can order them, because to be honest, the Model Y that's in the showroom at the moment, you can't order except for inventory items.
Yeah.
So that they're cars that are yet to arrive. But yet deliveries are starting in May, just bearing in mind that the deadline for applying for the WA government's $3,500 EV rebate for any EV basically costing less than $70,000. The deadline is the midnight on the 10th of May, and Tesla has already confirmed with us that they do not expect any of the refreshed Model Ys to arrive anytime by then.
Sorry, can I ask?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is that government subsidy ending? I haven't been able to sort of read anywhere why it's ending.
Okay, so it was an original commitment by the WA government. The 10th of May midnight deadline in 2025 was always in place. Originally, there was also a cap of 10,000 applicants, but then later last year, that cap was removed altogether. So then the only limit was the actual original stipulation of the 10th of May deadline. So it was a short-term stimulus to assist people in reducing the cost of EVs, as a stimulus sort of measure to promote the purchase of EVs. But to be honest, the time for that kind of stimulus has passed. EVs in general are not super duper expensive. And in fact, if you look at the value for money that a Tesla Model 3 or a Model Y represents as what are basically premium vehicles, they really are great value for money, even though they're not cheap. So that's why it's ending, Robbie. It's just a matter of, they said, look, we're going to do 10,000 rebates, and the deadline, whether or not the rebates are finished. Sorry. There's a deadline and we'll do up to 10,000. Then they removed the 10,000 limit and kept the deadline. And look, as a club, as a policy, we are very comfortable with that. In fact, I think it was Pete that sort of mentioned a little while ago, or some time ago, talking about the $25 million that the report that we've published is seeking. It's not actually seeking that money. There was no quote of money, but that's roughly how much it's going to cost. As a club, we would have been much more comfortable in canning that rebate altogether and instead spending that money, which was actually many millions of dollars. In fact, it was probably $35 million, if my maths is correct. I think 10,000 times 3,200, is that right? Something like that. Yeah, I think that's right. That would have been, to be frank, better spent for the entire community, EV community, on augmenting the WEV network than simply providing a discount to a Tesla owner that represents 6% of the value of the car. Because I know if I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'd much rather be able to charge it effectively than have a discount on the car that I bought 3 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
There's also a charge up program, Harold, that you may wish to mention.
Yes, and in fact, I'm going to take the liberty of grabbing the report, and there is a charge up program, and I did mention this earlier actually, but it's actually quoted in the report. In fact, the report quoted TOCWA. So let me just see here. Okay. So in fact, the report does mention, it says, as of January 2025, the WA government continues to support EV adoption through incentives such as the Charge Up EV Charging Grants Program, which co-funds up to half the cost of purchasing and installing EV chargers for businesses and local governments. And they also have a target of at least 25% of eligible government fleet vehicles being electric by 2025-2026. I dare say that's probably financial year 26. Now, these efforts combined with the ongoing expansion of charging infrastructure position Western Australia well for a continued transition towards electric transportation, bringing economic, environmental and social benefits to the state. It then goes on to say, however, we note this view from TOCWA, quote, an unintended consequence of a reliance of the Charge Up EV Charging Grants program to deliver further EV charging infrastructure along crucial routes such as the Great Northern Highway is that it fractures the continuity of what critically needs to be a uniformly designed, installed and maintained system. Experience gained through the RAC gifting their regional fast DC chargers to each respective LGA highlights the pitfalls of localised ownership and responsibility whereby the LGA key performance indicators were discordant with that of the entire network. And what that basically means is what may have locally been seen as an isolated outage of a low priority often led to a significant breaking of an entire route comprised of several other distant chargers which were useless unless they all worked. So you can imagine, you know, you're on a long navigation route, and it's great that most of the chargers work, but if you come across one that's not working, it basically breaks that route. It's like coming across a bridge passing over a river, and that bridge is washed out. It's no good to you that, you know, that the bridges beyond it are all working okay or are there, because it's the one that you're at that's important. And the problem is the LGAs, you know, they've got a multitude of other tasks that they need to do. And if one charger, such as the Mandurah one, we've had the one at Margaret River, if it's vandalised or broken, you know, it relies on the ranger finding out or someone in the office finding out. Then they've got to make a phone call to a contractor. The contractor has to go and get parts for that one job. It could be a long distance service that they need to do. And it's, if the Shire of XYZ, if their charger's not working, well, they don't care if someone in Perth complains, because someone living in Perth isn't one of their constituents. It's not one of their ratepayers. So they're really interested in dealing with their ratepayers than dealing with, you know, people that blow by. So you really need to have it's good. Look, the Charge Up, to be honest, the Charge Up grant program, it probably has the right, they're probably doing it for the right reasons. They're meaning well in doing it. But in my humble opinion, those funds could be much better directed by directly investing in the WAV network and making it even larger. Because at least that way, you've only got one minister to complain to, one or two bodies that actually run the thing, and that way you can have a continuity of service. Now, I mean, at the moment the service hasn't been fantastic, but obviously this report is aiming to improve that and making suggestions to improve it. But you've got a much better chance of improving one system than you have this fractured jigsaw puzzle of disparate locations that aren't coordinated, and nor are they interrelated to the sense that one person is responsible for all of them, which is what the WAV network provides. So yeah,
and that's
mentioning it,
because if you have, and that's the issue, because if you have the charges owned by a business or a LGA, a council, that council might be responsible for maybe one, maybe two charges. It definitely does not justify there to be anyone whose sole role is to look after those charges. In fact, it doesn't even justify, and if the charger does break down, hopefully it's reliable enough to only break down once every 2 or 3 months. After that role has been assigned to someone initially, if that person moves on or what have you, and there hasn't been any charges that have gone down in the meantime, it just sort of, the responsibility disappears. No one knows whose responsibility it is. And when the charger does break down and someone rings the council, they don't know what to do with that information. They're scratching around trying to work out whose role it was, and that person's left. Who do we contact now? And it just gets put in the too hard basket. And then 6 months later, nothing's still been done. So, whereas if you have a statewide approach, you can justify, one person, 2, 3, 4 people whose sole role it is to look after the network.
Yeah, absolutely. When you've got an asset that's worth, say, 25, 30, we hope $50 million, then assigning a 1% budget, which is $500,000, mind you, is not a problem, because that's very routine for you to attribute several percent of the value of the asset in repairs and maintenance and all that sort of stuff. And you can get quite a few technicians and quite a bit of infrastructure in place or resources in place with, say, an annual operations or maintenance budget of $500,000. You could have a couple of technicians on hot standby in every corner of the state. And, that's something that's very effective. Something else is, and I hope this doesn't really happen much, but any individual can basically apply for the Charge Up Grants program and just simply assert that they're going to make their charger available to the public. And in fact, you don't even have to do that. You could be a small business and say, I just need it for my fleet of employees, and get half off and not really use it. There are some pitfalls which can be manipulated. But having said that, if I can just build the WAV network, and then if the LGAs also, and good on them, for example, good on the Shire of Dalwallinu for installing a fast DC charger. I mean, to be frank, that's the only fast DC charger along the Great Northern Highway. So by definition, it's the best one. And good on the Shire of Dalwallinu for doing that. And any other shire, whether it's Kew or Meekatharra, if they organically apply for the Charge Up grants and install chargers, that's awesome. But I'd hope that they will be in addition to chargers that are installed as part of the WAV network along the Great Northern Highway and other locations. Because I mean, let's face it, there are in the southwest there are tons of LGAs, that can install chargers all over the place. We want these things everywhere,
Can I just ask a question? Being first time joining.
Yes, right.
I appreciate this is maybe a controversial view. There seems to be a lot of talk in this group about the charging network and particularly the long distance charging network. How many people are actually using that charging network beyond the Perth metro area? Do we have research or numbers on the usage?
It was used 80,000 times, Ryan, just last year.
80,000, did you say? Yep.
Correct. It's in the report, yeah.
So Ryan, imagine this. Back in, actually, we don't need to imagine it. We can look at it. We can look it up on our website. Google.
While you bring it up, I used the $3,500 grant to give me solar charging at home. So I paid $3,000 for a smart solar EV charger, and that means, and I've 93% of my charging has been through that charger and been free. So that was a great use for me. That grant was brilliant to be able to justify the cost of that charger and remove that barrier of having to charge at home on 10 amp, and also remove my reliance on the charging network. I've seen a lot of videos coming out of LA where the charging network is horrendous in terms of 6-hour waits to try and get to a charger. I worry that the charging network is not the answer long term, particularly in the metro area, and that people shouldn't be relying on that charging network when they're buying an EV.
Okay. Yeah. So you're right. You're right in one point. So the only people that will use a fast DC charger in the metropolitan area are people that don't have off-street parking.
Yep.
Or they're in apartments that don't have AC charging, because like existing apartments and
like myself. I charge out on the streets everywhere. I can't charge in an apartment.
Yeah. Yep.
Colin. So there's that use case. There are also businesses and couriers and Uber drivers that just do lots of Ks and they just need fast charging around town. But fast DC chargers are not generally, well, put it this way, almost no locals will use them because they'll do what they all should do, which is charge at home. Now, however, that entirely changes if you are visiting Perth or transiting, or Perth or any other location. So, and then, the follow-up question is, well, actually you did pose it originally, is, how many people use the Northampton charger or the whatever charger? Now, and like, for example, how many people would use the Halls Creek charger that hasn't been working for 29 weeks? And to be honest, if you look through PlugShare, there's probably 10 people that have 10 entries, or let's call it the Fitzroy Crossing one, which sort of works, or the Warman one. If you look in PlugShare, there are about 10 entries in the last couple of years, and half of them have been mine, right? So you could then argue, well, what's the point of doing this? The point is, and I don't have the quote in front of me, but I can paraphrase it from memory. A couple of years ago, Elon Musk described the importance of having superchargers everywhere along any route that someone who owns a Tesla wants to drive. And he said that it wasn't good enough to have superchargers on just, say, 70% of the routes. It had to be on 100%, because anything less than 100% detracts from the value of the product, being the car. So, and this is the classic thing of, I got myself a big Land Cruiser because I want to tow my boat once a year up to Exmouth. And then what they'll do is they'll buy that Land Cruiser and they may tow it once ever to Exmouth and then probably never again, but they'll still use it as their daily driver, right? So the reason why, and so as far as Perth is concerned with fast DC chargers, it's pretty much, that's done. Or actually, I'll take that back. Tesla had a supercharger at Karrinyup, and it's always been chockers, and a lot of that's been because Karrinyup's a very popular place and it's in a good location. People will use it as a last resort parking space and plug into the supercharger. There's another one at Coogee, which which was installed fairly recently and is not that busy. There's one in Kings Park, which surprisingly on occasions is extraordinarily busy, and because people are opportunistically charging there, and they're Uber drivers and others. Perth is basically done with DC charging, and the only reason why you'd put more in is because there's more demand and you'll make money out of it. But what's key is, I want to drive to Broome once a year or once every 3 or 4 years. Or I'm thinking about buying an electric car. Well, I've got one EV, but I'm going to keep my old Pajero or something because at least I can then get myself to XYZ place. Well, once they've got effective fast DC chargers effectively everywhere, pretty much, then you'll go, well, I'll just sell that old Pajero and I'll just buy another EV because, you know, that, and it's just human nature. We obsess about the 1% edge case and then let that dominate the rest of our thinking. So again, you need to have the ubiquity of charging locations everywhere, even when they're not used. And that's another thing. You may say, oh, well, $25 or $50 million being spent on chargers that will never make a dollar. The Halls Creek charger will never make a single profit, even if every dollar it's sold in electricity came for free. It will never, ever make a return on investment. But actually, having said that, there are many things that governments do that never get a return on investment. In fact, to be frank, all of Horizon Power's energy supply is sold at a loss because the government has rightly determined that everyone in this state ought to pay the same for power, regardless of how expensive it is to deliver. And Synergy, or the WA government, transfers a lot of Synergy's profits as subsidies to Horizon Power so that you can live in the middle of nowhere and rightly pay the same as someone right next to, you know, the CBD in Perth. So the importance isn't what you could think of the money being wasted in Halls Creek or Fitzroy Crossing on a charge that will never make a dollar. It's the fact that because they exist, someone in Perth and in other regions will buy an EV that every single day they'll be charging on increasingly solar and other renewable energy as a proportion of the overall grid. And that in itself will bring economic and environmental benefits that far exceed the hole in the ground that's filled up with money that is Halls Creek or Fitzroy Crossing. That's the key. That is that 1% edge case that guarantees that people buy not just one EV in the family, 2 or 3.
Yep.
That's the crux of it. That's what really counts.
Yep.
But yeah, and that's really all it is. And like I said, in 10 years' time, it'll be hard to find a petrol station. Look, 20 years' time, but 10 years' time, like in Norway, a lot of petrol stations will close and will reopen as EV charging stations. You know, that's just the progression of things. It's no different to when 120 years ago, there were hay supplies and farriers and saddlers and all the rest. And then slowly and inexorably, they didn't die out. They retired and changed jobs and whatever. But you know, anecdotally, there are more horses in existence today than there were 150, 130 years ago. But all of those horses are mostly used for entertainment and, I guess, gambling purposes rather than primary transport. So maybe, you know, old clunker ice cars will be used as, you know, Sunday drivers because it's kind of good fun to hark back to the olden days. All right.
Harold, this is not the quote that you were looking for, but about 11 years ago, Musk said, you have to match the convenience of the gasoline car in order for people to buy an electric car. And I think that is as true today as it was 11 years ago. And I think that basically sums up exactly what that whole report is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's once you've got ubiquity of charging and everything else, it just removes all of those barriers. And you know, when you can plug in a car and charge 100 k's in less than 10 minutes, or say 200 k's in 20 minutes, and realize that that's actually a relaxing way of doing a road trip, because you should be stretching your legs anyway, and you enjoy all the rest of the benefits of software-defined vehicles that get better as they age, which is very unique. And the fact that, look, I'm inherently lazy, and the thing I love is every morning I can wake up and my car's fully charged, and I didn't have to go to a petrol station or go to anywhere. I just plugged in at home. You know, it took me 5 seconds to plug in and 5 seconds to unplug, and you know, that's fantastic.
Harold, just quickly on our network stay to Albany. I originally come from Albany, so I go about 6 times a year down to Chains Beach. We're lucky we've got a beach house there. So I've never had to wait once at Williams, Koji, or in Albany, not once in the 6 trips I've done up and down in the last 12 months, which is fantastic.
Yep, absolutely. You know, and that's awesome. Yeah, I've done the same. It's been really funny going on the Eastern Seaboard, get to I think Tenterfield's got it's 12 or 16. It's some odd number of, even number of many stalls, and I'm the only person there. It's awesome. It's just...
And as people will know, you put in Williams, because it's a Tesla one, it tells you there's 3 or 2 available before you get there and how long they've been there. So that is brilliant.
Colin, you can basically leave Albany, navigate to an address in Perth, and it will just plot, and it'll go, exactly. You're going to spend 16 minutes in Williams, and it'll tell you when you get to your destination at the other end, including the charging time, and it'll plot out which charger to use. It is awesome. It really is.
And the charging cost has actually come down. It's not 65 cents anymore. It's 62 cents now.
Yep. And like I said, even at that, call it high price, it's still basically half the petrol equivalent cost.
In exactly 12 months, I have saved $4,528 in 36,000 kilometres.
And that's atypical, Colin. That's, the average Australian, I think, spends around $5,000 a year on petrol. So, I mean, I did 100,000 kilometres on my first Tesla. It cost me $380 in all the electricity and all the maintenance and servicing combined. So, and to do 100,000 kilometres, the average Australian would be 5-6 years. So,
The other thing you've done, Colin, is saved about $600 in servicing costs, because in that 36,000 Ks, you've avoided 2 services that you would have had to have undertaken in an ordinary car. So,
I was never in the market. Sorry, go ahead.
Go right.
Yeah, I was never in the market. I love Teslas, but I was never in the market for one. Just too expensive, right? I was only in the market for a $30,000 secondhand car. But when I did the numbers on the leasing, compared over 5 years, the cost of a second-hand Camry that had done 3 years versus the cost of a new Tesla, the Tesla was $8,000 cheaper over 5 years than a second-hand $30,000 car. And that was estimating $50 a month of electricity usage, which I've used zero. I haven't paid to charge the car ever.
So you're kind of in front there, Ryan.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, just 100%. And that's not also including the resale value at the end. A 3-year-old. Yep, sorry.
No, sorry, you go.
Yeah, a 3-year-old Toyota Camry is going to be 8 years old when I go to sell it after 5 years. That's not going to be worth anything near hopefully, a 5-year-old Tesla.
Yep, absolutely.
And Ryan, I did all these figures exactly what you did 6 years ago now, when I was waiting for my first Tesla, because I was trying to justify the performance version. So that became a lot more difficult. So I had to crunch the numbers really hard. But interestingly, that car paid for itself in under 18 months, even the performance version, because it actually ended up saving my wife's life. So the Tesla that you're driving is the world's safest car, or one of the world's safest cars. But any the top 3 or 4 safest cars in the world are all Teslas. So, you can do all the numbers you like. You might just find that it pays for itself a lot earlier.
Yep.
Exactly.
No true. No true, Pete.
Now, just a very quick follow-up. It was mentioned that not many people are using the remote routes. So a stark example of how things are changing is we've got on our website a comprehensive list of all of the around Australia EV trips. And in 2018, there were 3 round Australia trips. And if you look at 2024, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 2018, you got 3. In 2024, you got 19.
Harold, it looked as though you didn't stop. It looked as though you kept on going around and around and around.
Just a second lap count.
It's because Harold can't parallel park, and he just kept on for the next closest.
I don't know how to turn left, and so I just keep turning clockwise right and keep the coast on my left. Yes. I'm just trying to keep the ratio up for us sand gropers. So I think we represent something like 30% of all the trips, at minimum 30%, and that's 3 times our batting average. So, but yeah. Anyway, it's these trips are going from being unheard of, literal adventures to just a routine dawdle around the countryside in 9 or 10 days. So.
Yeah, and I got to say, I never dreamed of driving my car across the Nullarbor to Melbourne. I never thought the Tesla would be possible until I saw the posts on TOCA's website, Facebook, and I thought, oh, it is possible. Hang on, that'd be cool. I'm going to do that one day, So it's thanks to TOCA that I'm dreaming of that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you've just got to I highly recommend anyone does it. Just the change in landscape. And it's just awesome how you can, over a couple of days, you can go from 20-degree cool to 45-degree heat, and from dry to wet to brown to green to all the different sort of colours of the landscape, and all the different types of landscape and trees and wildlife and all that sort of stuff. It's just an awesome thing to do. It really,
and smooth roads to potholes.
Yeah. Please don't ever think if you see the roughest road in Western Australia, that is better than some of the smoothest roads everywhere else.
Thanks.
Everywhere else. All right. On that note, it's getting a bit late, and we're going to try and maintain our 2-hour limit. Like I said, it's been a hell of a day and a hell of a week, a hell of a month actually. But we will be back, next week. So it's all good. Pete, how would you round out? Well, a landmark, ask us anything, as if we didn't already know.
Well, firstly, I just wanted to thank you, Harold, for the immense amount of work that you did with this report. Not just your patience, but your your incredible dedication, and to Rob Dean as well, TOCA's chairman. But we haven't thanked him yet. He just does the incredible work day in, day out, not just the report. His wife, Robin, is just an absolute godsend as well. But yeah, as always, stay safe, stay sustainable, go TOCA, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, read the WEV Network 2025, join TOCA, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and I really do look forward to you joining us on next week's episode of TOCA's Ask Us Anything.
Thanks, everyone.
Great work, guys. Fantastic. Well done.
Well done.
Good team effort.
Amazing.
Oh, is it going to stop?
Nope, doesn't want to stop.